to Module 2, Approaches to Qualitative Research. In this module, we will discuss different approaches to qualitative research, their research focus, unit of analysis, methods used, and how they are conducted. While all the approaches are embedded within the realm of interpretivism, they differ subtly in their focuses. Approach means a plan or a strategy, how you conduct and how you organize your research process, a way of understanding a phenomenon or a perspective that informs the process of studying a research problem. It also informs the process of your data collection and analysis. Every approach has its own focus, process, and its respective outcome that will provide deep insights and perspectives on social phenomena and realities. The subtle but significant differences between the approaches allow us to capture and understand research issues from different qualitative research perspectives. According to Creswell and Potts, we have 5 approaches to qualitative research: phenomenology, ethnography, grounded theory, and narrative research, and the case study. These approaches, with their own methodologies and techniques, offer distinct frameworks for investigating diverse research questions. While the focus, process, and outcomes are different, these approaches share some common characteristics of qualitative research. Some of them are all the approaches should ask a good research question that are subjective in nature, feasible, clear, precise, and specific, and should focus only on a single social phenomenon. Secondly, they all are inductive in nature. A theory is developed. Another aspect is that the data may be collected from multiple sources, namely people, environment, images, text, and audiovisuals, etc., using multiple methods, both primary and secondary. Let's begin with phenomenology. Phenomenology is an approach to research that seeks to describe the essence of a phenomena by exploring it from the perspective of those who have experienced it. It describes the meaning of this experience, both in terms of what was experienced and how it was experienced. So it focuses on why and how. It attempts to uncover the meaning in lived experiences that are often overlooked in daily life. It also emphasizes on importance of the first person, subjective experience, and seeks to understand the world as it is lived and experienced by individuals. We decide to choose phenomenology if we want to study in depth individuals' lived experiences of a phenomenon. Whether phenomenology is an explanatory or descriptive approach is a contested area. Edmund Husserl, who is considered as the father of phenomenology, put forward that phenomenology is descriptive because it engages in a dialectical process of conceptual clarification. It provides a direct description of people's experience without any consideration of the causal explanations that a scientist, historian, or a sociologist might offer of the experience. However, more recently, researchers have revised Husserl's writing and analyzed his understanding of explanatory. This led to many more contested conclusions, but more commonly accepted conclusion is that phenomenology thus aims to provide explanation, a particularly rich and articulated version of what others called as intentional explanation. We have 2 types of phenomenology: Husserl's transcendental phenomenology, commonly known as descriptive phenomenology. And the second type is the hermeneutical phenomenology, which is also known as the interpretative Phenomenology. The descriptive phenomenology assumes that the observer must separate himself or herself from the world, including his or her own physical being, to reach a state of the transcendental bias, and understands a phenomena by descriptive means. This means that the researcher has to suspend all his or her beliefs and attitudes during data collection and analysis. The second one, interpretive phenomenology, assumes that the observer is part of the world and not bias free, and it understands phenomenon by interpretive means. Here, the researcher reflects on essential themes of participants' experiences with the phenomenon while simultaneously reflecting on his or her own experience. In this course, we will not delve into these differences but discuss phenomenology in general and will include features of both these types. Phenomenology is most appropriate when the focus is to explore the lived experience of individuals and how they make sense of a particular phenomenon. It allows the researcher to deeply explore subjective experience and understand the core meaning as described by the participants. Phenomenology focuses on human experience that is guided by consciousness and is about capturing consciousness as revealed in people's lived experience. People's consciousness represents their ability to think, and it is not about I think, but I am. I am should be the starting and end of research methods. Phenomenological study describes the common meaning for several individuals of their lived experiences of a concept or a phenomenon. It attempts to understand the essence of an experience and focuses mainly on what and how they experience the phenomenon itself. It emphasizes on how the individual construct their lived world and seeks to understand the taken for grantedness of life and experiences. For example, we take the ordinary and routine activities for granted that are expected in everyday life. And we assume that these activities happened by itself, such as sense of belonging, food habits, relationships, feelings, health, pregnancy, or childbirth, living with a food habit, or living with people with whom we have a close relationship, has its own way of being or own meaning and style. Each individual makes sense of these ordinary activities differently. Phenomenology examines the essence of these activities, their way of being, and their own style in relation to the context. The notion of lived experience. Lived experience is a concept as well as a research strategy that is often used in phenomenology. Versions of feminism and ethnographic approaches also use this notion. It is concerned with those areas of human existence that provide insights into the silent voices of consciousness, purposiveness, and meaning. It means the subjective, the first person experience of a phenomena, and individuals describing their lived experience in their own words and without being forced to fit them into labels or themes. It captures the essence of a person's experience using their own words without the researcher's biases or preconceived theories shaping the analysis. This approach seeks to understand how individuals make sense of their world, focusing on themes that emerge directly from their descriptions, such as their feelings, thoughts, and perceptions. Lived experience never occurs in a vacuum. It is always embedded in a particular situation or context bounded by time, place, social world, body, and history. An experience is not isolated from its surroundings, which can include its physical, social, cultural, historical, or institutional backgrounds. For example, a girl's lived experience of menstruation is deeply influenced by the social, cultural, and political resources. and the environment. It may also be influenced by the individual's awareness. So the girl has a unique experience of menstruation in her own situation. When these situations changed, her experience will also change. When she moves to a different situation or surrounding, her lived experience and interpretation of menstruation will also change. So lived experience asserts that the experience is always formed in situation, and it arises through our specific position in the social world. It rejects the idea of homogenization of people's experiences. While focusing on lived experience, we also focus on meaning making. Meaning making is an active process of constructing and assigning significance to our experiences. We make sense of what we feel about a particular phenomenon, space, or time, an institution, or any environment. So it focuses on ordinary, everyday events, language, rituals, routines, while privileging experiences as a way of knowing and interpreting the world. Another commonly used strategy is epoche, also known as bracketing. Epoche is a deliberate process of suspending one's own biases, assumptions, and judgments to capture fresh and unfiltered perspective. We set aside our preconceived notions before engaging with the field and the participants. It helps in obtaining original views of the participants, which is not interpreted or linked to any theory by the researcher. It is used in descriptive phenomenology. One way of using epoche is to write down all the beliefs, prejudices, or hypotheses about the phenomenon that the researcher intend to investigate. It reduces the possibility of introducing an investigator's opinion into the data analysis, which should instead focus on the participants' point of view. Interpretive phenomenology believes that epoche is not fully possible because human understanding as inherently situated within its historical, cultural, and personal context. So, keeping in mind all these key aspects, we will now learn the phenomenological research process. To begin the research, we first determine a social phenomenon as a research issue that we want to understand deeply and can be explored through lived experiences of people. You can refer the figure in the slide. Articulate a clear and specific definition of the phenomenon you plan to study. It can be done through a literature review to find a gap, or discuss this with experts in the field, or observe practical challenges faced by people. Then identify a specific phenomenon of interest. Examples could be emotional states such as anxiety or irritation during onset of menopause, or childbirth, or starting a business. What it means to be a new mother, what it means to be the owner of a startup, or what it means to be the only woman in the board of directors of a reputed company. Another example could be experience of learning in a new university, or experience of giving birth for the first time. Identify which phenomenon interests you more than others and need a deeper understanding that may contribute to healthcare, mental health, or education, etc. After identifying, take note of this philosophical assumptions of phenomenology. You can say knowledge is a product of conscious experience and reality is understood through the subjective first-person perspective of an individual. Or you can also say all knowledge, including the knowledge of the physical world, originates from and is understood through our conscious experience. The philosophical assumptions will guide you how you organize and conduct your research process. Data collection. You may collect both primary and secondary data, and you can use open-ended questions. Do not ask too many questions. You may have one or two, or a maximum of 3 broad questions, and follow up those questions during the interviews to enhance or refine the data. If you're not able to get adequate data or significant data, you can ask follow-up questions to receive more information. So usually 20 to 25 participants are enough to provide adequate qualitative data to address the questions. You may use both thematic analysis or interpretative phenomenological analysis. Building on the 2 or 3 broad questions, identify significant statements that talk about how participants experience the phenomenon. Make clusters of meaning from the significant statements to generate themes, interpret the data, and write how situations or contextual factors that influenced their experiences. Then write the essence of the phenomenon, focusing on common experiences of the participants. It should address the broad research questions that you've framed in the beginning. Thank you.